I was gonna say test, but when I said that, it just made me think of a musical. And I almost started singing it. If I start randomly quoting Rent during this, I don't know what you're gonna do. Fucking sue me. Hi, hello, welcome back to my room where I sit in my chair and talk to you about books. It is currently June, it's towards the end of June, and I saw a lot of people online doing the mid-year Book Freakout Tag, so here we are. I decided I would do one as well. I kind of would like to take a survey of them and see what were my favorites and everything, so I thought it would be fun to do this. And hopefully it'll be a much shorter video than my other one. Also, fair warning, there is a guarantee that I'm going to break the rules of this tag by answering multiple books for the questions because I have an inability to choose just one. I think mostly because I read different genres, so there will be a book that I'm like, oh, well, it's my favorite because of this character, but then this one is a really good memoir, and yeah, I just like to cheat, basically, is the answer to that. So we will see how this goes. Now it's raining, so hopefully you can still hear me and it's not too loud because I have no other time to record this, so here we go. Also, I love the rain. I have the rain, my tea, we're going to talk about books. It couldn't get any better, honestly. So let's see. Best book you've read so far in 2021. I did have multiple answers for this, but I really thought about it, and I think overall my favorite, I actually have it over here on my stack of books. My favorite has to be Legendborn. And it's a lot of reasons, but it hits literally everything for me. This is, I can't stop talking about this book. I recommend this book to everyone I know. Hopefully, I would really like to do a full review on this at some point because I just have so much to say. For anybody who knows me, I am obsessed with Arthurian legend. I love King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table, Merlin. I'm a huge nerd for anything of that. And this book was suggested to me by my friend Jessica, and I just picked it up. I blindly trust people most of the time when they give me recommendations. I'm like, oh, you said it's good? Sure, I'll read it. And I don't like to know anything before I go in. So I went into this book and started reading it and was like, is this about King Arthur? I'm gonna die. And it ruined my life in the best way possible. So this has to be my favorite book. Honorable mention to Know My Name by Chanel Miller. That is a close runner-up because I absolutely love that book. I don't have my own copy of that yet, but I will be buying it. So for nonfiction, I think definitely her book. It meant a whole lot to me. So, but yeah, I think Legendborn has to be my answer for that one. Question number 2 is best sequel I've read so far in 2021. And to be honest, I haven't really read a lot of sequels. I used to do the series thing a long time ago, and I would really dive into a whole series. And now coming back into reading, I've been reading a lot of standalones and just kind of like catching up on some of the books that I missed. But I am going to start getting into series. I've been convinced. I've been given a couple really good recommendations. So I'm going to start getting into that now. So the only things that I've read that I think could be considered sequels would be the second book in a romance series. So, for example, the Brown sisters or the Kiss Quotient series, they're technically all standalones, but I guess you would consider it a sequel. So if I were to say that, then probably Danny Brown. Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. As we all know, I love Talia Hibbert. But to be honest, even though everything about that book and everything about Danny Brown is so me, it's probably my least favorite of that series, unfortunately. And the same thing with the Kiss Quotient. I really didn't like The Bride Test. I'm gonna give The Heart Principle, which is the third in the series. I'm gonna give it a chance, but I really didn't like Bride Test, unfortunately. And it wasn't the characters were great, but the plot just like didn't really get me. I don't know. So I haven't really read a ton of sequels that I love, unless you're considering graphic novels, which obviously they have multiple in a series, but I wasn't really thinking about that. But yeah, so I'd probably have to say Take a Hint, Danny Brown, because that one was good. It wasn't my favorite, but it was good. And it's probably one of the only sequels I've read this year. Okay, and the next question, new release that you haven't read yet but want to. Hands down, Brandon Taylor's new book. It literally came out today. I am waiting for my copy from the library. I was the first one in line to request it. I'm so excited for it to get here. I don't know anything about any of the short stories in his new book, but I already love his writing. It's called Filthy Animals, and I cannot wait. I can't wait to get my copy. Now the next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And my answer to this was going to be Filthy Animals by Brandon Taylor, but obviously that just came out. But I'm going to be honest, I don't super keep up with a lot of the books that are to be released. I spent so much of this year kind of trying to catch up on books that I missed. So there's not a ton that I'm super looking forward to. I would say that the books that I am excited to read that I think are coming out this year, I'm not even positive on the second one, are just continuations of romance series. But I am excited to read The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, mainly because I would like for her to redeem herself. I really loved Kiss Quotient, and I loved Michael and Stella so much, but since I didn't like The Bride Test, I really want to see how the third one goes, and I do like the main character of the third book, so I would like to give it a chance. And then another one is actually First Love Take 2 by Sajni Patel. I don't know if that comes out this year or the beginning of next year, but it is the second in the series of the Trouble with Hating You series. And that's the one that when I was reading The Trouble with Hating You, I was excited to hear about her friend's story. And this is that friend's story, Preeti. And so I can't wait for that one. I really like to know more about that. And I do enjoy her writing a lot. So I would say those two are ones that I'm excited for. But I honestly spend most of my time rereading or discovering books that have already been out. So now the next one. The next question is biggest disappointment. And no hesitation, without a doubt, it is The Afterword by E.K. Johnston. I was so upset by this book. I listened to it at 3 times the speed because I just couldn't wait to get through it. I got about halfway through it and I rolled my eyes so many times that I just started speeding through the last half of it to get through it. The Afterword, again, seems like everything that I would like. It is gay knights, and that's it. There's not much more to say about it. A bunch of gay knights, and I love it. And so I was like, this is gonna be so good. I love Arthurian legend. I love knights. And I love this. I love all of this. So I was so excited. And I started reading. I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. And I was reading the physical book. And then I just couldn't get super into it. So I got the audiobook to read it in tandem. And it helped a little. But then the further I got into the book, I swear from the beginning of the book, I guessed the ending. There were no stakes. There was nothing that I was worried about. Everything was just working out. And that normally wouldn't be enough for me to hate a book. But the tokenization of all of these characters, I can't. It felt so much like the author was just putting, oh, here's a black character, here's a brown character, and here's a trans character, and here's an ace character. And it's just like it was throwing them in for the purpose of throwing them in. Like, it had no other plot line, had no reason to be there. Not that obviously like your sexuality or your gender or anything like that needs to be a plot line, because that's the whole point. It doesn't. It was just so frustrating that it like felt very obvious, like, hey, look at me, I put a diverse character in here. It was so frustrating, and I like gagged every time it was brought up. It was very uncomfortable. I did not like the book at all, as you can tell. Yeah, that would be my biggest disappointment of this year. I'm very upset that I wasted my time reading it. So number 6 is biggest surprise. And I had a hard time with this question because I go into most of my books blind, kind of not really knowing anything about them. I try not to read too many descriptions. So a lot of my books are a surprise. I was gonna say Legendborn again because I did not expect to love it as much as I did, and I didn't expect it to hit like every single thing I love. But then I was thinking, and a book that really got me was Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. And I'd heard a lot of great things about this book, and it definitely seemed interesting to me. The concept of it, and also I am a nanny, so that kind of hit really close to home, and I've always usually watched white children. If you don't know, Such a Fun Age it follows 2 main characters, technically 3, but our main character's name is Amira, and she is a black nanny, and she watches these 2 children. She is out one night with one of the kids, Briar. It's been a while since I read it. Briar, I believe, and they are out at a grocery store, and a security guard basically thinks that she took this little girl. And the cops are called, and the whole thing is videotaped, and it kind of goes on from there and kind of deals with the mom now having to try to make it up to her in these weird white people ways, and Amira having to deal with the aftermath of all of that happening and deal with the mom acting kind of weird now. And going into it, like, I knew the topics it was going to talk about, but what got me was how poignant it was. There were so many points in the book where I was like, just because the things people were saying is exactly what I hear on a daily basis, or the way the mom was reacting to things. I was like, oh my God, this is so accurate, and it was blowing my mind. And obviously, like, the woman who wrote it was black, and so is black. She wasn't, past tense. She is black. And so she knows, but the way she wrote the mom and hearing it in the mom's head of how obsessive she was trying to like be BFFs with her young black nanny and be like, oh look, I'm so cool, and very much kind of the vibe of, well, I would have voted for Obama a 3rd time if I could have, that kind of vibe. And she just nailed it. And the whole time I was reading it, I just kept gasping because I couldn't believe she got it so right. it was just so good. I really want to reread it, but it was wonderful. That book was so good. I would say a close runner-up would be Real Life by Brandon Taylor, just because I didn't expect it to hit me the way that it did. And it wasn't until after I had already finished it and turned it back into the library, like a week later, I was still thinking about it. And it's just stuck with me, and that was really surprising. So I would say that's a close runner-up. Okay, so the next one is favorite new author, debut author, or new to you. And I can't believe I've made it this far in the list not talking about this book, because I literally have been talking about it all month. But it has to be Ocean Vuong. This book, I have no words. I have no words. And I've never read their poetry collection. I would like to. I've been looking everywhere for it to try and read it. But I've become so obsessed with all of his work. I have been, watching all of his interviews. I literally was keeping a note of quotes from interviews he's given, because just the way he speaks and the way his mind works is just, it's so poetic. I mean, there's no other word for it, and it just hits home. Sometimes I'll be listening to a podcast or an interview with him in it, and I will just cry because of the way he's saying things and the way he's presenting these topics. I have no words. I have no words. I am so in love with his work, and I can't wait to read more. Yeah, everything that has to do with Ocean Vuong, I've just eaten up. I can't. It's so incredible. So the next one's hard. The next question is newest fictional crush. And it's hard because while I love a lot of characters, I don't necessarily love them in that way. It's very rare for me to actually have like a crush on a character, but I do become obsessed with certain characters. There are lots of characters that I consider my children, that I birthed from my body, and that I love and will go down with every ship they are on. And so it's not a crush, but I love them until the day I die. I will love them forever. But I have to say, my newest, the character that lives in my head 100% rent-free, I pay him to be in my head, is Wes from One Last Stop. If you haven't read One Last Stop yet, I suggest you do. It is really good. I do kind of want to do a review of it because I have thoughts. But the characters, Casey McQuiston, listen to me. If you don't stop writing lovable side characters and not giving me enough information about them, I don't know what I'm going to do. This isn't a threat because I have nothing to threaten you with, but I just don't know what I'm going to do. I literally would pay Casey McQuiston to give me their character sheet on Wes because I need to know every bit of information. I got the library book and I read it once, was obsessed with everybody in it, and then went through and read it again and bookmarked all the parts in the books where Wes was talked about because I needed all of the information on him. That is how obsessed I get with these characters. There's a whole wonderful cast of characters and I love them all so much. But of course, being me, I would love the one white boy. What are you gonna do? I just love him. I love him so much. You just need to read the book to understand. I have no other way to describe it other than emo boy that just sits in his room all day. I love him and Isaiah, and I can't. I don't want to talk about it. Okay, my tea is getting cold, but we are 3/4 of the way through this list. Let's go. Newest favorite character. Now, I looked at this question a little bit different then the newest crush question, because again, like I said, I don't really have crushes. So the newest favorite character question, I just thought about characters that I don't necessarily need more information on them. I don't need more of their story. They just sit comfortably in my heart. They have a space right in my chest that they live, and I hold them so close to me. And I think it might be because I see a lot of myself in these characters, either through representation or otherwise. So I have a couple answers for this question. The first one is Mila, also from One Last Stop. I love everything about her. Again, read the book and you will understand. She's wonderful. My personality is very similar to Mila's. Mila, Maritza from Cemetery Boys, and Bree, our main character from Legendborn. Those are the three that I think are my new favorite characters. Okay, so number 10 is book that made you cry. And this question could probably be my entire list of books that I've read this year, because if you know anything about me, I cry at everything. A good paper towel commercial comes on, Waterworks. The wind blows the right way, Waterworks. I get a really nice new shirt, Waterworks. I literally cry at everything. So this one was hard. So I tried to do books that I have a couple different to answer this question. For example, I think top of this list is Know My Name by Chanel Miller and Crying in H Mart. They both made me cry for similar kind of grief, traumatic reasons. And Legendborn, I know I've mentioned it a lot in this video, but it truly is my favorite book I've read this year. And Legendborn made me cry because it hit home, and because a lot of the things Bree was going through with finding out information about her ancestors, it was hard. It was a lot. So I think that one just hit really close to home for me. So I would say some of those were the main books that made me cry. But like I said, I cry at everything. Now, the next question is a book that made you happy. And I would say that is probably the graphic novels and the mangas that I've read. So Kimi ni Todoke, the manga series that I'm reading right now, there's just no sad parts. I mean, there's frustrating parts where, you know, you're really rooting for the couple to get together. There's a miscommunication and you're just like, oh, please, like, let them talk through this. So there's parts like that, but none of it, there's no sad parts. It's all very happy. So that, and I just started reading Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, and that just is just beautiful, coming of age, like butterflies, beautiful story. So those are books that made me really happy. So the next one is most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. So two of the books that I bought, I mean, the first one, which I was kind of surprised that I loved it as much as I did, but the first one is A Little Life. And it's specifically this copy because the one that I had rented from the library was the really big hardcover version. It was like as big as a textbook. And I didn't get to finish it before I had to return it. So I bought a cheap one on eBay. I was like, oh, whatever, if it's used, it's fine. Like, I'll just get a paperback version. And I thought it was going to look exactly like the hardback, just in paperback form. So I thought it was going to be this kind of big, clunky thing. And then this one came, and it's so much smaller. And the cover has this black and white, like this gray hue, which I know these are such little things, but the one from the library had more of a bluish black and white tint, and I really didn't like it. And so when I got this, I was just so happy. Like, it's just so compact, and I love the matte finish of the cover. Like, I love everything about this book, and I was so surprised because I complained about this cover for so long. I was like, oh, I don't know. But I love it. It's like, I hold it so close to my heart, and like has a few scuffs here and there, some character, but it's so cute. I love how small it is. But I would say one of my favorite, most aesthetically pleasing books is Cemetery Boys. After I read this, I had gotten a version at the library, and then as soon as I turned it in, I was like, I need to own this book. Like, I love everything about this book. And the artist that did the cover, I love their art. Oh my God, they could not have done a better job with these characters. And when I saw the artist had done renditions of some of the other characters in the book, I was blown away. I love their art. And so when I was looking up other pictures that they had drawn of Cemetery Boys, I saw that there was a special edition, Barnes & Noble book club edition, I think, of the book that had this gold gilded. And so on the inside, oh, so beautiful. It looks like this. It's so beautiful. Do you see this? Imagine having a book this beautiful. So actually there's a funny story with this. After I finished it, I was talking with my friend Jessica, who is a collector of special edition books. And I had said, oh, they had a special edition of this book, but they released it a while ago. Do you think Barnes & Noble would still have it? And she was like, absolutely not. Those sell out so fast and people resell them. There's no way you're going to find it. So I looked on Barnes & Noble, and they had one store near me that said that they had one copy. And I was like, I'm just going to go check. The inventory might be wrong, but let me go check. And I went all the way, like 40 minutes away, to go find this book. And I'm searching, I'm looking, they have piles of Cemetery Boys, and I'm looking through each one. I'm like, please, and I cannot find it anywhere. And I was like, I drove all the way out here and it's not here. I was like, this is why I don't do the special edition hunt for books, because it's so sad. And so I'm looking, like the very final pile that I looked through, they had it, and there was only one. And it's like kind of beat up. It had dust all over it, like it had been there for a long time. And I said, I don't care. Give me this book. So I fought for this book, and it makes it all that much more special. I love it so much. So Cemetery Boys is my answer. So the next question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? There's nothing that I feel like I desperately need to get through with the deadline of the end of the year. I guess the only ones on the list of like books I want to finish this year would probably be books that were suggested to me that I feel like I need to read because my friend asked me to read them. So namely, number one being the Cruel Prince series, because I think if I don't read that and also end up loving Cardan, that one of my friends will disown me. So I'm still waiting. I've been waiting for over a month to get that from the library. So we'll see if it ever gets here. Those are the only ones that I think I need to catch up and read those, because I feel like everybody else has already read them. All right, we have reached the last question, and that is favorite book community member. So this one, I haven't really gotten too much into the book community. I have had a lot of fun on Instagram following a few people, but I need to follow a lot more. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. I would say my favorite, I was going to answer by saying kind of my favorite YouTube channels to watch. And I really enjoy Pages of Haley. I will put her YouTube in the description. She is so fun, and she feels like one of my sisters. The way her humor and just the way she talks, her videos are so fun to watch. And then I also really like Elias, who, again, these are two bigger booktubers, but I just enjoy Elias's videos, even though I feel like we don't necessarily read similar genres of books. His videos, for some reason, are just so calming, and I love to watch them. But ultimately, and maybe this is a little bit of pandering just because I love my friends, but I would say my favorite book community member is probably my friend Jessica. She's been my friend forever, and we have always loved talking about books. And I have been literally in like a 10-year reading slump, and she was the one that convinced me to start reading again this year. Not directly, but just talking with her about books, and I was just lamenting that I was so upset I haven't read in so long. Like, it's been years since I read a book. And she was like, you should really try new YA fantasy. You should try these new YA books. Like, they're so good. And gave me a whole list of suggestions and kind of just inspired me to start reading again. So, shout out Jessica. You're my favorite. You're the reason that we're here and that everybody's being forced to listen to me talk about books all the time. So, thank you so much. So, I would say that she's my favorite. Love you, Jessica. Well, there you have it. That is the end of the mid-year book freakout tag, and it is a freakout for me because I'm moving in a month, and I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to check out books from my library anymore when I move. So I am checking out everything I possibly can and reading as much as I possibly can. I currently have 30 books checked out from the library. I may or may not have gone to another library and gotten a second library card today. We don't have to talk about it. I went in just to see if I could get the library card, and I left with 12 books. So, yeah, I have a problem. So hopefully I can get through all of those, all 30 books that I have checked out. I have faith. I have faith in me. I'm currently reading a lot of queer graphic novels. So if anybody has any suggestions, that is what I'm into right now. I am on the second volume of Heartstopper, and I just checked out all of the books that I checked out today. I think are all just queer comics. So if anybody has any suggestions, I would love to hear them. But other than that, thank you for watching, and I love you.